This is the Free Talk. We bring you the answers that matter. Zimbabweans got very angry when President Emmerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa appointed two Mnangagwas into the executive. They don't really sit in cabinet because they're deputy ministers. He appointed the deputy minister of finance and the deputy minister of tourism. There was a loud cry of Nepotism. Many believe that the biggest Achilles heel in Zimbabwe and many African countries is Nepotism and corruption. Most often than not, those in power have access to resources which they share with their families. Now, just over a week ago, I was on a study tour, understanding corruption and how it is being dealt with at a global and local level. I met with officers from the World Bank, from the IMF, from the United States of America Congress, and at one point, the US aid. We spoke about interventions in corruption and how to bring the best, especially in developing countries. Now on this, the Free Talk, we cross over this week to Europe. Now I speak to Ivica, the mayor of Split, the second largest city in Croatia. How they have been dealing as a city with corruption and as a country. And also to cross over, cross-pollinate ideas to understand how Africa is lagging behind or catching up with Europe. This is the Free Talk. With me, your host as usual, Dara B. And we speak corruption and how to get the better of it. Join me just after this break for more. This week on this, the Free Talk, we in proud partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation for Freedom. I'm joined by the president of the center, the political party in Croatia, and he's also the mayor of the city of Split. Now, this is the second largest city of Croatia, which is in Europe. Now, I'm going to be discussing with him about corruption and also about politics in Europe. And we're going to zero in his political career and also as a professor of physics, how he has managed to balance this. The Free Talk in proud partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation. Now, Mayor, thank you very much for joining us here in Zimbabwe. I just want to open this interview by just asking you, Mayor, you're a professor of physics. How did you find yourself in politics?
Okay, thank you. So first, let me express my gratitude and thank you for inviting me for this talk. I'm very pleased that we met in the States, in Washington and Cleveland, and spent a week together to learn how to fight corruptions on different levels. It was a very nice study tour, and thanks to the Friedrich Naumann Foundation that was financing it. So how I end up in politics. Actually, I'm a scientist, as you said. I'm a physicist, professor of physics, and I worked for 27 years at CERN in Geneva, where there is a big accelerator. This is the biggest instrument and the biggest scientific experiment ever made, actually, in the history of humankind. And I was working there for 27 years. I did my PhD in Paris, in France. Since this is the lab at CERN is a distributed lab, it's about 10,000 people working there. But from time to time, we all work in our home institutions, and I worked in Split in Croatia and sometimes in Paris as well. Through my scientific career, I achieved some of the results, and maybe the biggest one was discovery of the Higgs boson in 2012. Where I led a group of 100 scientists that actually found the Higgs boson. That was one of the groups. Since I was always interested for the public work and how to say the public problems, and my character is that I don't complain if I don't suggest a solution to the problem. Through my family life, I'm married and I have three kids. There was no school in the neighborhood in which we bought the new apartment 20 years ago. And then we started little by little to fight for the school to be built in the neighborhood. And we realized, my wife and me, that the school will not be built if we don't push it through the citizen initiatives. My wife, she's a computer engineer. So we were pushing for the school to be built in the neighborhood. Then we organized at first at the citizen initiative level. We organized a small political initiative to push for the school. Then we realized that the school will not be built if we don't go to the level of the city. Then we actually apply to the elections at the city level. Then we realized that this is not enough. Then we have to go further. Then we set up the political party. Then we actually presented ourselves for the elections for the national level, and my wife, she's now a member of the parliament. And then 2 years ago, I candidated to be a mayor of the city of Split, and to be honest, I thought that I will not be elected as a mayor. But since everybody knows me as a scientist, somehow I was a very popular scientist in Croatia, and particularly in my home city. And then little by little, by making a campaign which was a little bit, I would say, original and not a real political campaign, but it was more a very sincere and open campaign, which was oriented toward the future and the projects and everything. They elected me 2 years ago as a mayor. Then after 1 year, I resigned, and then I went for new elections, in which I actually got double votes than the first time, and now I'm a re-elected mayor. And in that process of becoming a mayor, I realized that I cannot do both jobs together. I cannot be a scientist and a mayor, because already one of these jobs is too much, actually, if you want to do it properly. So I had to quit my job as a scientist, and now I'm 100% mayor of the city of Split.
Now, comparing politics and physics, which one is better, or which one is easier to do?
That's a very good question. So 15 years ago, when I started to do a little politics, I thought that physics is complicated and the politics is easy. I know everything about politics, and well, that's easy. Now, 15 years after, I have to admit that actually physics is simple and the politics is complicated. In physics, you can calculate everything. You increase the current, the speed is increasing. You decrease the current, the speed is decreasing. But in politics, you can't predict anything, and you cannot calculate, because it's all about people and ideas, and it's very, very, very complicated thing.
Mayor, you said that you wanted a school to be built in the area where you had moved in with your wife, and you found that the only solution to having this school built was you to enter into politics. Now, does it speak well about politicians that if they are in power, they can't listen to others?
Well, it is, but it's. As I said at the beginning, I'm that kind of character of person that I don't complain if I have no ideas or propositions how to change things. So instead of complaining how the politics is nasty and nobody wants to do the politics, etc., I said, okay, I will actually try to do the politics. And I also suggest to many people, and I also always try to convince the others, instead of complaining, do it. Try to do it yourself. And then I can tell you now from this perspective, it's really, really much more complicated than looking from a side and telling, look, that should be done that way or that way. It's not that easy. It's easy to know what you have to do, but to really do it, it's much more complicated. And this is my character. I never complain if I have no propositions, or if I don't try to solve the problems myself.
Mayor, there's this proposition that has been going around that corruption is more rife and happens mostly in African countries. But just going through the media and looking at some issues around, I've noticed that Europe is not spared by the scourge of corruption. What is your analysis on that?
You are completely right. Sometimes we say, problems are always happening on some other sides, but I think that we all have problems with corruption at different levels. There is little corruption, there is a lot of corruptions, and all our societies, there are corruptions. In more advanced society, like, for example, we are somewhere in the middle. I'm coming from Eastern Europe. So we are in the middle between Africa and maybe the least corrupted countries of Western Europe. But there are some corruptions. For example, in my country, the biggest level of corruption is actually clientelism, in which, in order to get a job in public sector or to get some job which is connected with the public money, you needed some connections with the political parties. And it is better to be here a member of the party than to really know something or finish the school or whatever. So this kind of problem is still present in our societies. Maybe now we have less open corruption, which is openly seen, easily seen, but there is a lot of corruption under the carpet and somehow which is not even discussed in the public. So I think that we still have a long way to fight, as you have seen in our study visit, that we have seen that there's a lot of things to do in order to really win this war against the corruption. I'm a very optimistic person, and I think that we are actually doing well in fighting the corruptions, because I think that today the level of corruption in the world today is lower than it was before, because now and thanks, for example, to media, to people like you, who are always talking against corruptions, you are insisting on transparency and all these instruments to fight the corruptions, and we all have to unite against it. And I think that the world is trying to win this war at the end. But we should never how to say. We should never say that the corruption is only happening in some countries like African countries. The corruption is all around us in all of our countries at different levels.
But Mayor, let us talk about your city for an example. Just about a few weeks ago, police arrested 12 people in early morning raids, including the city's administration offices in the biggest city of Croatia, and they were being accused of corruption amounting to 3.2 million euro. Now, and you're talking about clientelism as the biggest aspect of corruption. What about this thing that involves buildings and movement of money that we saw Tuesday, police arresting people on?
Well, where have you seen this? This didn't happen really in Split, actually, maybe in some other town. But this level of corruptions, for example, we have this level of corruptions when, for example, when people are trying to get their permits for constructions and all these kind of things. So this is still happening, but as I said, this is on much lower level than it was before. And actually, the sources of corruption is mainly coming from the politics. I can tell you from my perspective, when we came here to the city government, we said to our administration, from now on, you have to do everything by the law. There is nobody who is privileged. There is no one. I told to my administration, if somebody comes to you and they say they are my friends, and you have to give them something or to do something because they are my friends, be sure that I don't have friends like that. I have none of my friends who would ever come to you and say he's my friend and let me do something illegal or whatever. I said, so follow strictly the law and do what you think is right. And we will never, ever, from the political perspective, force you to do something which is illegal. And this is already bringing a lot of ease to our administration to do something which is right, and the response from the administration is rather good. So whenever in many of the cases that people from the administration that did something nasty was actually because the politics from above was pressurizing them to do something nasty.
So Mayor, if I get you correctly, you are saying that corruption is a political problem.
Well, actually, since most of processes in one country or one society are influenced by the politics, the corruption starts from the politics. As many other things, this is why I think that in the societies like your society or my society, which are not yet built society, like, for example, I don't know, maybe in France or Norway, maybe it's not that important to do the politics. But in our countries, in your country or my country, I think it's very important to do that the right and good people are doing the politics, because then they can really influence the processes and they can make the big changes in short amount of time. But the changes need time. But if the politicians and the politics is a proper and right politics, then the changes can be much faster.
Now, Mayor, you spoke about clientelism. How many people have you given jobs in the city of Split who are affiliated to the Centre Party?
Zero. But okay, this is not, the zero is because it happened like that. I don't say that no one who is a member of the party cannot ever get the job. This is not good, and neither because it means that nobody will be a member of the party. So it's not the problem. Actually, the criterion should be that the best always win. So, for example, we make the public offering for all the jobs in our administration. We always issue a public call. And we are the only administration in whole Croatia, I think, which is systematically doing that. We have never, ever employed anyone without the public call. And in that public call, I, as a mayor, when I choose my directors, head of departments, I would like to choose the best person, because that is the best for me. Because my interest is to have the best, because if they are the best, they will do their job the best. And then I will have a good outcome of all of it. And if I receive somebody who is not the best, then later on I will have problem with that person. So my personal interest is to choose the best person. And if it is the case, and if you have no other criterion, only the best, then you will find the way to choose the best. And then they will spread the excellence further. When they will employ somebody or hire somebody themselves, they will search for the best. And like that, you will propagate this excellence and meritocracy further in the society. And this is why successful societies, like Western societies, they are more meritocratic than clientocratic. While our societies, I can tell you for Croatia, is a clientelistic society, and meritocracy is not really implemented. And my wish is actually, when we build our society, that we introduce meritocracy. It means that the best are advancing and the least best, there is a message to them, be the best and you will advance.
Amazing. But Mayor, how then do you balance the aspect that you want to be re-elected and you are not doing any favors for your party members who are seeing other political parties in Croatia giving their friends jobs? How do you balance that?
Well, you know, we are the party in which I have never ever had any pressure from any member of my party to give them something that they does not belong to them. I had never ever anyone asking me for a job, for their cousins, their sons or daughters or whoever, because they know that I will never ever do it. And it's true that it is then maybe less, how to say, in order to govern, what I appeal is to how to say that the competencies of people, and I don't want to be afraid of me, or that I do them the favor and then they will return me the favor. I really ask them to give their bests, and maybe this process will be a little bit slower, but it will be of much higher quality. And this excellence will spread further through the society. And now, two years after being mayor, I have appointed all directors, all head of my departments as professionals, and they are really doing professionally their job. Of course, you always have problems with people. You know, there are problems every day that you have to solve. Sometimes these problems are big because you work with people. But if you have only professional relations with your people, then you can really insist on results. And I'm insisting on results. If the results are not good, then I replace someone. If the results are okay, the people are continuing.
Amazing. But Mayor, when you came in, the already directors, what happened to those directors?
Sorry, if I can.
When you were elected, the city already had directors, but you're saying you appointed directors. What happened to the directors who were already there?
Okay. So, for example, we have 14 city companies, and I told them all, when your term is over, we will make a public election. And if you are the best, you will continue. If you are not, you will go away. And some of them continued, and some of them didn't. Well, they have another job. They go a bit lower in hierarchy. We don't fire if people didn't do anything nasty. We don't fire them. They have other jobs to do, but they did not continue as directors. And this is what they actually agreed. They said, okay, it's your responsibility to choose your associates and people to work with. And this is what we did. So nobody really, well, there is always exceptions. There are some people that they never want to step out as a directors, but you deal with them on a different way then. But most of people are cooperative. They understand that they cannot be directors of the companies or head of departments if they are not supported by a mayor. So this is impossible.
What is the role of your central government in the running of your city, Mayor?
Well, the central government, I'm rather independent as a mayor because I'm elected directly by my citizens. And we have always, relations with our county, which is at the second level, and then the central government, national government. In my case, my prime minister is coming from different party. He doesn't like me very much. But okay, he is not very helpful, but he cannot, or the government, we are in fair and correct relations, I would say. If we need something, they try to help, but they are not very helpful at the beginning, since we are from the different parties, they don't like us very much, but at the end we have fair and correct relations with them.
But how much does the central government interfere or affect your operations as an independent mayor?
But not that much, except that sometimes we need a support for that the processes are going how to say, smoother. And this is sometimes they help, sometimes they don't help in going smoother. So it takes a little bit more time than usual, but we manage somehow to go. They are bringing the laws, and for example, that now being a mayor, I had like million suggestions how to change the laws. That our processes are going faster, but they don't accept it because it's coming from me, and I'm not, we are not in the same party, and said they don't accept really suggestions. But okay, this is the politics, you know. I fight one day to have an influence in the national politics so that we can change the laws so that the city businesses or processes are going much smoother. And this is what I think. We try to convince our citizens that this is the best way to do. We have elections next year, and I hope that our citizens will realize to support us in order to change the national laws as well, so that the everyday life of our citizens is actually improving.
Mm-hmm. But you said, Mayor, that you in the party where you are the chairperson of the party, your wife is also a member of that party. Aren't you also in a corrupt relationship where you are chairing a party and you have made your wife a member of parliament? You are corrupt, are you not?
You know, that would be if this is a secret society, but this is an open and transparent way how we built it together with our friends and our co-party members, and everything is transparent. And the fact is that my wife, she's a computer engineer and I'm a physicist. And our lives are much more difficult now than before. We even had better salaries as engineer and professor than we have now as politicians. But the fact is, and we are elected by people, and everything is open and transparent. This is why it is not corruption. It's actually the fact that we are together in this is actually easing everyday life, because otherwise the life and politics is very, very, if you want to do the politics right, it's very, very challenging and complicated. It consumes all your life, 100% of it. You never have holidays, you never have sick leave, and you are 100% doing this. And if you don't have support of your family, it is actually almost impossible to sustain on a longer term, because you have attacks every day. You are attacked by everyone, because if you want to do it straight and right, and particularly if you fight corruptions, then you fight against criminals as well. So then they attack you every day. They try to spread lies about you and everything, and your family life is really, really suffering. And the fact that my wife and me, we are together, and our kids, they are now grown up, but the fact that we are together is actually easing the life. Otherwise, we would not sustain this life, which is very, very, very intense and very difficult.
But Mayor, let us look at the issue of clientelism that you spoke about, and just as context. Here in Zimbabwe, our president, President Emmerson Mnangagwa, appointed his relatives, nieces, to his cabinet. One became a deputy minister of tourism and another a deputy minister of finance. So in your view, in your context, it would be right, because now he has his family to be able to support him so that he is able to deliver. And this has nothing to do with nepotism, right?
Well, actually, I would never, for example, as a mayor, I would never put my wife to any executive position in the city in which I can choose her. That's not, but she's a member of the parliament. She was chosen by people. And I have nothing to do with these kind of things. But for example, if I would put my son, my nephew, or whoever in the executive position here, I would never do that. Or even if they can be better than the others, but I think we should prevent ourselves from doing these kind of things. My wife, she doesn't have any power in the city of Split, any position. She was even elected as a city councillor, but she resigned from that position. She didn't consume this position because I'm a mayor. That would not be fair.
Amazing. But you are saying that even if your son was the best engineer, you would not appoint him director an engineer in the city of Split, why would you deprive the people of Split an opportunity to have the best engineer who's your son?
Yes, but okay, it would be a very, very complicated relations between me and my son. He's, by the way, a very good engineer, computing engineer, but he's doing the private, he's working in the private company, and I would never actually employ him to work in the city company. I think that this is just not appropriate. Because then the relations would be very complicated to distinguish between the personal relations and professional relations. So it would not work actually very well. So I would never do it. And I think we should prevent ourselves of doing such kind of things.
Do you have laws that govern such issues in your city, the issues around nepotism? Do you have any laws that draws those lines that you can't supervise, for instance, someone you're directly related to?
We don't have the laws which are doing this, but I simply think it is not ethical, and I would not do it actually. But I think that there is no law forbidding these kind of things. As you have seen, so for example, in Cleveland, we have seen that there are even laws written by their city government and on the county government that they actually prevent of doing these things. Here we don't have such kind of laws, but in my administration this is not happening because, well, there are strict guidelines not to do the things like that.
What laws do you have, Mayor, in your city that are aimed at reducing or combating corruption in your city?
We have the national laws and we have ethical code, in which, for example, when you are a member of the sub-commission which is deciding about the jobs, for example, then you have to write that you are not in the conflict of interest with any of the companies that you don't own, that your family does not own shares, or any companies which is doing the business with the city in such a way. And we try to stick to these rules as much as we know and we can. So I think that this kind of corruption, for example, is not very much present anymore in my country. Now there are other types of corruptions. Corruptions are very connected, for example, with the connections with different people, that in order to get the things done or to obtain something, sometimes you have to know someone rather than to go and get your service in the first place without knowing anyone. Now, the way how to fight against this is actually providing the rules, also making it very transparent. Transparency is actually the best way of fighting the corruptions. If all the processes are open and transparent, then nobody can do something nasty. And this is how actually we are doing it for the moment. We are trying to open all our processes, trying to make it digital so that everything is written always. Whoever does it, it's always written. And everything is public and transparent as much as it can be.
But Mayor, your city, I'd gather, being the second biggest city in Croatia, transacts a whole lot around procurement. Now, how do you deal with favoritism or with kickbacks as you go around purchasing and doing procurement in your city?
Well, this is how it's done, that everything is absolutely transparent and public. Every procedure is always on internet. It's strictly done in the groups of people. It's never done by one person, and everything is controlled. And there are different levels of purchase. The small one, sometimes people can choose directly because this is a small amount. You have to find the balance between the processes which are going smoothly and which are actually really transparent and corruption-free. So for these processes, which are of substantial amounts, this is very, very, very strictly controlled. And I would say that it's not very easy actually to be corrupted in that levels. Although the people are always somehow they try to find a way how to avoid the laws and everything. But I think that now we established some we adopted some European laws. I think that corruption at that level is rather small. In my city, I think it's not existing, but in whole Croatia is rather small. But there are different corruption. Always different corruption affairs which are appearing, even if the laws are very good, I would say, in Croatia, but people somehow always find a way.
But Mayor, let me talk to you about say who is at the end of the day ultimately responsible if there is a corrupt, people get kickbacks. Maybe for a huge tender in your city, who takes the blame?
But for example, I can tell you now we have one tender which is going these days actually. How it is done. So we are constructing a new beach which is worth about 40 million euros, and we just issue a call for the offers, and that documentation was prepared during last 6 months by professionals. And these professionals, there are many of them, and this is supervised by independent commission of other people which are actually going through this documentation. And then since I'm leading these projects, and then I was always insisting then everything is transparent, that all the documentation is always public, which is by the law. So there is not much of insisting me. It's by the law. It's written like that. Then what actually through all these procurements, you have to ensure that not only that when you publish the call, that there are several companies that would apply. If it is only one company that can apply, that can be suspicious. It could be that actually that somebody prepared the documentation only for that company. For example, today we received a call, and there are 3 companies, construction companies, that actually applied. And there is already a competition between them. So you have to produce that there is at least several companies applying. So there is a certain competition between them. And by this process, and for example, I did not participate myself, since even though I'm leading the project, I'm not in the commission that was opening offers. This is completely independent commission from me, and through these processes in which there are many people involved, and you try to make them independent. For example, there are some people from Zagreb, there are some people from Split, there are always from different sources, and they control each other on a certain way. So this is how you actually ensure that the things are transparent, open, corruption-free, but you have to ensure also one factor, which is equality. Because sometimes, you might compromise the quality, so you have to ensure that the quality is also good. And this is how we ensure here that, but this is what we inherited from Europe somehow, that everything is transparent. As a journalist, you could have in this process of procurement, you could have every single information downloaded from web. For everything, absolutely everything.
Do you have any departments within your city that puts checks and balances or investigate while a tender is going on, so that they just keep everyone accountable?
Yes, we have a department of purchase or procurement of public. It's called Department of Public Procurement, which is actually controlling all these processes. They are part of the process, and there is a person for that department in every of our commission which is doing these procurements, and they are controlling that everything is according to the law. Because at the end, what is what's also good. At the end, it's not me who is responsible, since these people, they were at different stage of procurement. They were actually signing documents that everything is fine. So that not even me as a mayor is at the end responsible for all that, because they would be responsible because they said that everything is according to the law and everything. And this is how we, by including more people in the process and asking them to really contribute to the process, you ensure that the corruption is actually at the lowest possible level.
Mayor, in the beginning of this interview, you told me that politics is actually at the center of corruption, and yet politics is the one that controls almost every facet of our lives. Our judiciary is appointed by politicians. Our top police officers are appointed by politicians. Even anti-corruption investigating teams are appointed either through parliament or some certain space that involves politicians. Now, will we win this war against corruption when the problem is politics and the antidote is politics?
Yes, and the only way to win it, that we become politicians. And actually we take over the politics. That is the only way. I think the only fight worth fighting is that one, that we take over the politics. And then what our ideas of building a free, corruption-free society in which people, they are not afraid, they can freely express their opinions, they can really live decently in our societies. We have to build these societies ourselves. It's not that somebody else will do it.
When you say we, Mayor, define what you mean when you say we.
I mean you and me. I was scientist 2 years ago or 10 years ago, and I would also say, politicians are like that. Politicians they don't want to change the things. They are like this. They're like this. Like this. And then I said, okay, what can I do? I can become a politician, and then I will change the processes. And this is what I'm doing today. And then you see that the things are much, much, much more complicated than we think that they are. Because this is, to change a single thing, you need a lot of energy, efforts. You have to sustain fighting. Then people are lying about you every day. They're inventing the things. They try to actually, what is interesting? These corrupted people, they don't want to say that they are not corrupted. They actually want to blame you that you are equally corrupted as them. Or even they find a small thing and then they blew it, and they said, you are also corrupted because of this. And they find that even if you have a small mistake, they take a small mistake of you and say, your small mistake is the same as my stealing 100 million euros. This is the same. And it is not the same. This was a mistake, and this is stealing 100 million euros. And you have to fight these people every single day. And this is not nice. And what is problematic? People, I can have much better life as a scientist. My salary would be much better. Life would be perfect. I would travel all over the world doing cosmology and astrophysics, thinking about the other universes and the stars and the black holes and whatever, and the life would be very, very nice. But a nice life for me as a single person would actually mean that maybe our society is going in the wrong direction. And I couldn't look at it. And I said, look, instead of complaining, I will try to change it. And this is what I'm saying.
Some people say good people with good intentions have been corrupted once they become politicians, because power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
You are right. And this is why you always have to, first you have to have your own consciousness, but also some people around you, which will always tell you, relax a little bit, because power, exactly, there are many, many challenges in that process. But if the good people are not going to do the politics, then we will leave it to the people that we are fighting against, and they are actually controlling our lives. And the only way how to change this, I see that we convince good people to do the politics. And but we have to be aware that politics is very complicated. I've spent myself 15 years of learning politics. For first 10 years, I thought that I know everything, that I have nothing to learn. Then when I admitted to myself that I don't know the politics, that I have to learn it, then I actually started to succeed in politics. And I'm still learning it because it's much more complicated than science. But we have to tell to good people, do the politics, try to change the things as you would like them to be, because nobody is going to do that. These politicians that are nasty and corrupted, they will never, ever change. We can do whatever that we want. We can complain. We can write about it. We can yell. We can do whatever we want. They will never change. But the only way how to change our society is if we stand up and do the politics. This is why we have to encourage good people to do the politics.
Amazing. But Mayor, you talk about good people being in politics, right? But it is rare that those who vote for good people. It is very rare. So how do good people get into politics?
This is a very good question. From my perspective, I think that people are better than we think. And people actually will vote for good people if these good people, they can organize themselves. But what
Mayor, in America, in the United States of America, which goes to elections next year, we've seen people like Donald Trump, who almost caused an insurrection and a violation of the Constitution after he lost the election. He is one of the most popular and leading candidates in the Republican right now. We have seen criminals who have been elected presidents across the world. We have seen dictators who have been killing their own people, but have been winning election countlessly over and over and over again. And you're telling me that good people have space in politics. Are you kidding yourself?
Look, there are different examples for many different things. I can tell you that in the world, since 100 years up to now, there are more good than bad people in the politics and in the societies, because our societies, they are really advancing. So the things are not that bad at the end, you know. So there are examples for many, many different things. But of course, this is why politics is complicated and it's not easy, because to have somebody with a decent life and comfortable life, to actually abandon that life and start to do the politics, which is in particular in our societies, when it is dangerous, when it is not nice and not easy, it is rewarding, but after 10 or 20 years, when you see what did you do and that this is really going well, but the probability is to succeed. They are not very good, particularly at the beginning. So to do all these things, to abandon the nice life and to try to do the politics, there is not so many people who would like to do it. Even in the United States of America, look at the Republicans, for example. Republican Party is a big party, right? There is a good and nice and decent people there. But still, there is not enough of them to stand against Trump and say, look, Trump is not a really nice person, let's say diplomatically. And we stand against him for the values of democracy, and we actually expel him from the Republican parties. I'm sure that most of the Republican people in the Republican Party thinks like this, but they are still conformists, they are opportunists, and they don't want to do it at the end. I don't know why, but this is the case. So there are bad examples everywhere, but there are good examples as well, in many societies there are good people trying to do something, they don't succeed, they fail, they try again, but they try again, then they set up the party, they gather their friends and people together, they fight for ideas, and little by little they succeed. You know, this history of democracy is a history of success. You know, there is more than 50% of people living in democracy today. It was not the case 100 or 150 years ago. So the things are actually going in good direction, I would say. Even in the most problematic countries, well, in most problematic countries there are problems, but in the countries all over the world, if you look at the status of the country today and 100 years ago, most, if not all, of the country actually advanced. And probably you as me and me as well, we are frustrated by the fact that we see that our countries, they could have advanced much further if we didn't have corrupted politicians on power. Then, you can change the country in 10 to 20 years with a handful of people which are good, decent, and courageous, and they have support of their people. You can really change the country in 10 to 20 years. But for that we need that the good people are uniting and fighting for their ideas. But of course, it means that we fight for our ideas in a country which is at least minimum democratic. Otherwise, if it is not, then you cannot do it. You will finish in prison, and then then after that you will not succeed. Nobody's crazy like that. But in our countries, which are, I would say, my country is a democratic country. I will not end up, in jail, even if I say something against my prime minister, which I'm saying sometimes, which I don't like. What is he doing, or the ruling party, or whatever? But I don't afraid for my liberty, and this is why I'm optimistic, and I think that it's worth to fight for ideas.
But Mayor, as you speak about this arrest, where political opponents are arrested, this brings us to corruption in the judiciary. How would you rate the judiciary in your country?
Well, this is not on. I'm not very happy with the system. I think that the system is it has many ways how to be improved. But on another way, you will not get arrested if you do something. You should not be afraid for your liberty at the basic level. What we are not very happy is with the speed of some processes which are taking years and decades in order to be finished. And sometimes at certain level, two different judges can have two different ruling at the end. But I think that the system is, I think, somewhere like when I say that our country at the level of corruption is somewhere in the mid between least developed and the most developed country, I think our judicial system is about at the same level.
But have you ever experienced any form of political arrests and political judgments in Croatia?
Not arrest, but for example, I've got some fines. My predecessor did some nasty things, and they fined me. And then I'm now how to say, open for fines for something that I didn't do. But okay, I think we will settle that at the end. Our system will recognize that I'm not actually guilty, because this is not me who did it. That was my predecessor, and I think that I will be freed from this accusation at the end.
You were once arrested, Mayor. Why were you arrested?
No, I was not arrested. I was fined. They fined me for some construction that my predecessor did, but I was never arrested.
What was it around corruption?
No. He was actually my predecessor. He started to build something without permission, and then the inspection came. And they saw, this is without permission, and they actually fined me. And I said, look, but I didn't start this, because that was my predecessor starting. And then they say, okay, now let us see. Now they are reconsidering this process. But this is not something that you will get arrested for. They will just fine me a few thousand euros or something like that.
And when they fine the position of the mayor, or they fine you as a person?
They find me as a person because I'm the mayor. This is funny, but it is like it is. They said, we will find a responsible person, mayor, but they find me personally, not as a mayor of the city. They said, this is Ivica, and he is guilty because he is now responsible for it. But I think this is the flow in the system, and I really hope that that flow will be actually corrected.
If you were to sit with, with presidents and politicians in a room, what would you tell them, that would move our world into a better place?
But I would tell them, well, it depends which kind of politicians they are. But if they are politicians that I will first tell them, in my country, for example, as I said, to try to choose people which are the best. I think to introduce the meritocracy as a system, it's actually one of the most importance to our society. And to always choose ethical people which are doing their best, because if you spread this excellence in which people are really trying to do their best, and they have the knowledge and the energy and everything in order to do the good things, I think that spreading this as a system would actually improve us a lot. And actually also I think that in politics, this is one of the aspects. The first aspect is always the value aspects, in which you have to value the liberty of people, spreading the democracy also is very important. And I think as soon as these values are right, then if you have the meritocracy as a kind of ruling system, then really the changes in the society can be very, very fast.
But someone would push back, Mayor, and say that in Europe, you would say all these nice things that you're talking about, basically because your cities and your countries are rich. And they are rich especially out of proceeds of corruption, where corrupt African leaders have uplifted wealth from Africa and deposited them in big, shiny banks in your countries. And you have looked the other side.
But it's always a chicken or egg problem. So I think being rich is also always connected with democracy. And we have to introduce. This is why the processes in our countries, they are never so fast, going so fast as we would like them to be, because they depend on many different aspects. And this is why I'm optimist, actually, because I think that the world is now getting more and more connected, and particularly young people, they see how is the life in good countries. Unfortunately, sometimes they would like to go to these countries. Well, it's not always unfortunate, but sometimes, if there is a lot of flood of these people, which is happening these days, then they can create some troubles and problems. But on another hand, young people, they are seeing how the processes are looking at different countries, and I think that as they get the power to vote, that they will use that power to elect people that are really promising them, not only promising them, that will ensure them really a real democracy, and then the real changes in the society.
Yeah, yes, but Mayor, you didn't answer my question on the aspect where your countries in Europe, you have benefited massive from illicit financial flows coming from Africa, from money laundering into your banks and into your cities, which have built some of the most amazing, iconic buildings and economies around you. Yet you want to speak highly about how Europe respects democracy, how Europe, is the bastion of civil rights, benefiting from blood money.
Well, this is never good, These are examples in which you can not find anything good. Well, what we are trying, I think, all of us, is to try to spread democracy as much as possible as ideas of living, and to show that the best flourishing of humans actually is in democracy, and trying to help as much as we can, wherever we can. We cannot, we cannot take blame of all the criminal activities that was done in the past and everything that was used, all the resources that has been used in the past by colonial forces or whatever, But today, I think that what we try to do, this is why democracy is always a good concept. Wherever we can, we try to always to help and to help to spread the ideas of that all the human beings are the same and they can choose freely where to live, and we have to live together and work together. That's the only thing that I can say. I cannot say anything about in favor of all these things that you were mentioning. They are not very nice, and this is not the way how to go to proceed.
But Mayor, what has Croatia so far done to ensure that it doesn't become the destination of illicit financial flows and blood money?
We have different laws to fight these kind of corruptions. We have our banking system, for example, is in such a way that, for example, every transaction which is more than 15,000 euros, you have to declare. As a politician, for example, I have to declare every income that I'm actually receiving and everything. So there are many different aspects how to fight for it. We have seen through our study tour that we have a long way still to go in order to fight the corruption at the highest possible level. But I cannot even talk about it because I'm not yet at that level. I can tell you that what we do at the city level is trying to actually very carefully monitor the flow of money in order to very responsible deal with the public money, so that every cent of the public money is responsibly spent. And this is what I can do at the local level. But at the state level, I'm not still aware of all these big policies and politics. This is, I think, one day, if I can influence this, I will also work in order to fight this kind of corruption as well.
I want to thank you very much, Mayor. But before you go, maybe let's just talk about the important points that during the study tour, as we looked at world corruption in the United States of America and also at a local level, what were the big issues that you picked up, in the United States of America during that week-long study tour on corruption? What came out to you that you think you will probably take action on?
But I think that, for example, we have been with these big institutions like World Bank and International Monetary Fund. And what we have seen there, maybe that, at the level, these institutions, they are helping a lot of governments in the whole world somehow. And I would, for example, if I would have one day, maybe tie this help a little bit more with the fighting against corruption. I would not give it. It's always difficult because you can say, for example, I will never give as a World Bank a help to the government which is corrupted. But then you can ask yourself, are you then preventing these people to go out of the poorness in their countries, etc., etc. So, in order to balance, this is not easy. I know this is not. We should not be very. This is not very simple. But I think that these institutions, they still can fight a little bit more directly and openly against corruption.
Amazing. Now, I want to thank you very much, Mayor, and wish you the best as you run the city of Split, and also as you go to your next elections. What position would you be running on?
Well, I'm still a mayor of Split for two years, and I will try to run for the next mandate. But as being a president of the National Party, we are running for the elections on parliamentary level, European level, and there will be elections for the president next year as well. As a party, we will run for all these elections, trying to spread our ideas.
Amazing. And are you looking to be prime minister?
well, if my people, they elect my party as the strongest party in Croatia, then maybe one day. But okay, I think we still have a lot of work to do.
All politicians say if the people elect me, when I find that.
Well, but this is democracy. I cannot be prime minister if people they don't want me.
Now, I wish you the best, professor of physics, who's currently on leave doing the politics, and I will be visiting your city. And
thank you.
And
you are very much welcome to come to Split. I'm very pleased that we met in the United States. I wish you all the best to you as well, to fight for your ideas, and I really appreciate what you are doing, and well, keep doing it in the future.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Have a pleasant evening.
Thank you, and you too. Goodbye. Bye-bye.
At the center of corruption the world over is politics. Politicians have been blamed for growing corrupt practices, mostly so that they can retain power and amass wealth. In other cases, this act of amassing wealth is so primitive that it negates fundamental human aspirations, especially social service delivery. It has brought down health services, education, and future generations are suffering because of corruption. In Africa, most of the corruption is purely about extracting resources from the continent, turning them into gold bullion, expensive diamonds, and cash, which is stored away in large banks in Switzerland, in the United States of America, and somewhere in Europe. The world is becoming awake to this. There are efforts to ensure that those who steal people's money do not have an opportunity to stash them in safe havens and enjoy them thereafter. Banks are tightening. The world is coming together to deal with illicit financial flows, money laundering, and corruption. Those in power must begin to look with open eyes. Their days are numbered. Corruption will not get you anyway. Now, this is the Free Talk in proud partnership, the Frederick Newman Foundation for Freedom. Until next time, please don't forget to like, subscribe, or share if you have enjoyed these conversations. Thank you very much. I'm your host as usual, Dara B. Until next time.
Ndimi makaramba kuterera mashoko